Hi, welcome to Vista Serena on what is apparently the last day of some very intense weather we've been having for about the last 10 days, where the temperature's been up to and sometimes over 40 degrees. So that's kind of laid waste to quite a few things in the garden, and for many things it's been a case of intensive care, lots of water. This climbing rose here, Madame Alfred Carrière, she gets the morning sun that I'm squinting in now, and it probably loses the sun here about 2 o'clock most of the year, and that seems to work very well for her. The soil is not very deep here or in any of the raised beds we've made, because below it's hard schist, as they call it. It's just like dust and a lot of rock. And then on top of that there's a mixture of topsoil with some compost. Here we're just inside the entrance, so now we get the sun right through to evening, more or less to sunset. Lilies seem to take any amount of sun. They seem indestructible and need very little water to keep them going. Here we've got a rambler, and that's doing very well this year. Seems to pull through better than last summer, I think, as they're getting more established, getting their roots further down. They're able to cope with the hot summer better. Here are a couple of climbers over an arch, City of York this side, it's very pretty and scented, and the other side Parade, a very big blousy one, a double, which I think was sent as a replacement for one I ordered, because I generally order singles or semi-doubles so that the bees get something out of it. Here we planted some agapanthus where they get shaded from the afternoon sun by the ceanothus. But in actual fact, the agapanthus seem to be extremely robust out in the open, where they're exposed to all the afternoon sun. Down the hill here, where we're attempting to do prairie style planting, I planted out a lot of clumps of agapanthus, and quite small clumps, some of them, even individual plants, and they've all flowered, even though they say they need to be compressed into a bed to flower well, and they've attracted a lot of bees and butterflies. There are a few more here amongst some wild plants. I mustn't say weeds, because if you go into the history of these wild plants, they're all were used as medicinal herbs at some time, and next year we hope to get bees, so they'll all provide food and forage for the bees. And now, to my great relief, we're in the shade. This is in the garage, which is open fronted and open at the back as well, and tacks onto the house. So at the back of the bed there you've got the garden wall. This was the wall to the upper level in the vegetable garden. This was part of the long open bed behind the house, but then we had the garage put on, and so of course it plunged it into deep shade. Although during the winter when the sun's a bit lower it gets a little bit more light. So obvious thing to do is plant lots of ferns, and also planted this mahonia, which is doing nicely, as they like, quite happy in deep shade, and one or two ivies as well. So it makes it a nice and interesting difference to the rest of the sun-baked garden. Up the end towards where it gets a bit of sun, there are lots of lilies as well, which actually I dug them all up, at least I thought I did, but they had tons of little bulbils on the sides of the stalk, and all of those have turned into plants. And my assistant has come here to help do a bit of digging. I wasn't going to plant anything there, but never mind. Oh. Okay, moving on. And looking down there is back towards the entrance. And now moving on to where we start to get into the light. It's a very good spot to have cuttings when they've established and other things that are waiting to be planted out in the autumn, because it gets about 2.5 hours of sun a day only and doesn't get the fierce afternoon sun, and so it's a perfect spot. The idea here was to create a bit of shade, which I did with a montana, but it hasn't actually done very well, having taken off like a rocket. Pan up here, you can see that it came to a sudden standstill, and I don't know whether it was because the roots got too hot because the soil is not very deep, or what it was. But it's still alive, so we're waiting to see what it does next year. But anyway, so for the moment I've had to put some netting up to keep the intense sun off. At the back there, behind the fuchsia, is and the aquilesias that have gone to seed, is a climbing hydrangea that I'm trying. Yeah, there's one of my favourite plants, and it seems to be doing alright. It's growing away. So we put a lot of stones over the roots of the montana in case it was getting too hot, and we've just got to wait and see what happens next year. Here another climbing rose, which does very well here with 2.5 hours of sun a day. And beside it a solanum, which seems to be very happy here. It was out exposed to full sun, but was clearly not enjoying it at all, so we transplanted it last winter, and it looked like it was just going to die, but then one branch survived, found its way to the wall, and is doing well. Another climbing rose here, the Etoile d'Hollande, which does very well here. All the roses are going through a quiet spell at the moment because of the heat. This rose, Golden Showers, is a lovely rose, but it doesn't seem to like the amount of sun it gets there. So I think I'm going to move it to a shadier place, possibly down in the valley. I've got a couple of frogs in this bucket down here which I'm just about to release into the pond. They were living in the tank, the water tank at the top by the house for quite a while, and running out of water as we use more and more to water things. So now it's their time for freedom. Actually, it looks like there's only one now. I've got a feeling one managed to jump out on the way down. friend go? He craftily jumped out on the way down. There he goes. Oh, he's gone. That way. This way. Okay, good stuff. In the next video I'll show you around the valley garden that's gradually progressing and go into a bit more detail about what we're planting where and why. So bye for now, see you next time.
A bit scary, this Olympic frog pool. Never know what dangers might be lurking out there. I think perhaps I'll just crawl up here and lurk about behind this little weed, wild plant, and survey the scene for a while.
So we've broken the back of the clearing down here, just a few invasive things to get out now. They have their own place up the hill. The elephant grass is doing very well. I keep good control of that. Grows at a hell of a rate. And the regrowth of the cork oaks and oaks that got burnt is marching ahead very well. And the water plants, the marginals and the lily are all doing really well. I suppose it's a good example of right plant, right place.